Good morning. Good afternoon, I guess it is. It's afternoon. Hi. Hi there. So, um, yeah, thanks for dropping by. Uh, so we're live on Facebook, and on my subject, I have a subject this morning, something that I wanted to chat a little bit about, and that's gratitude. You know, it's funny because um, in a way, when I realized through step one in the recovery program that I couldn't, step one says that we were powerless over whatever it was our addiction was to alcohol, drugs, sex, food, gambling, so many things that and for some of us, all of those things, but and that my life had become unmanageable. Um, and I didn't really get that I was never going to be able to really manage my life. I thought, well, okay, my life is unmanageable and I'll figure it out. But if we really delve into the program, I don't get to figure it out. That I recognize that the only way out for me as a recovering addict and alcoholic is to find my way to have a God-centered life as opposed to a self-centered life. But I did struggle for a lot of years trying to get it my way, a lot of years in recovery. And so I think a lot of us do, and we feel like we'll make it work. We'll make it work, and we do a lot of things, to kind of make ourselves better so that we can manage our lives. And one of the things that we do, and the conditioning's really strong in the recovery world, is a gratitude list. And uh, um, and when I kind of woke up, and it's interesting that awakening, or whatever you want to call it, enlightenment, self, realization, comes in incrementally for most of us. That it's kind of like we're the frog in the pail of water, and they just heat the water, and the frog never goes out. He just eventually gets cooked. Well, eventually that's what happens to us. We get cooked. And we wake up one day and we realize that, holy shit, uh, not only can I not manage my own life, but I've been doing this work, and the transitions really happened, and I realized that I've moved into letting God or my higher power run my life, and so most of my gratitude lists, most of my life, were made from what I thought I needed. So I would sit down and make a gratitude list of all the things that I thought were good for me. And the gratitude list came also with a list of things that I didn't like or want, right? And so uh, there I was, kind of still running the show, even in my gratitude list days. And I'd like to give a couple of examples, and I'll bet you have some. Think of this, that were things you thought were the worst thing that could have happened, that there's no way you would have been grateful for, has turned out to be, like the best thing. And I think it says that, in the promises in the 12 steps, it says that we'll not regret the past or wish to shut the door, and we'll see where our experience can benefit others. Right away, that kind of leads into that we're going to be grateful for our past. We're, like, you know, we're going to be grateful for it, and we're not going to want to forget it, because it's the tool that we have for helping others. And so, yes. Hi, Teresa. Thank you. Teresa says she's grateful that I share my knowledge. So just look at, if we're in a situation where, if you're going to sit down and put out a gratitude list, if there's things, anything that you think you're not grateful for, and recognize that in time you will be. So it's hard to say I'm not grateful for anything. I mean, everything has its seeds in it. And so maybe the exercise could be, um, well, right now, many of us are at home, or experiencing loneliness, or experiencing um, you know withdrawal from people and friends and social situations, and because we're living in a community that's you know generally locked down. Many of us may be experiencing financial hardship because of what's going on in the world, with the virus and stuff, and so might be hard to say I'm grateful for this COVID-19, but maybe let's examine it. Let's look at it and see what can I pull out of this that has been, you know, that is it I could be grateful for. So, for me, um, I've had a lot of time this year to reflect, a lot of time to reflect, which I might never have had if it weren't for this. Um, Lots of time to spend with teachers. I have found some of the best inspiring teachers, awakening teachers on the planet to spend hours with during this time, and now most of it's been on YouTube, but that's the way. So I look at this year, or I look at 2020 that just went past, and instead of saying, "Oh shit, I'm glad that's finished," I realized that it was an amazing year for me, just an amazing year, and that as I often say, nothing was missing, and more than nothing was missing. It was perfect. So let's look at whatever's happened. And I mean, sometimes it's like we just don't know. We don't know that. I don't believe there are any accidents. I don't think anything possibly can happen by accident, and that we're, you know, when we're living outside of the conditioning, outside of um, um, our idea of ourselves. And it's interesting. I talked with a friend today, this morning, and he said to me, "Do you think that we're naturally selfish and self-centered?" And and my answer was no. I don't think so. I think we've been conditioned through fear to be that way, but we've developed those skills, if you will, out of fear, and thinking something was missing, and as we move into more of a God consciousness, we recognize that nothing's missing. And that, if you're going to write a gratitude list, and I was listening again to Brene Brown. I was talked to her about her yesterday in my talk, and I'm listening. I got one of her books, and what book did I get? That I'm halfway through, and she talks about gratitude lists, and which is pretty cool. What book am I halfway through? Um, There it is. It's the power of vulnerability. Beautiful, really, and just the power of vulnerability. So one of the things about um, recognizing that we're not our conditioning, that we're not our story, that we're not our behaviors, doesn't mean that it doesn't have some importance to become aware of those things. And one of the things about listening to Brené Brown is that I saw some parts of the David, the story of David, the behaviors of David, the ego part of David that I didn't really understand before. And it's like, oh wow, look at that, and there I am. Now I don't have to live that way anymore, but it's nice to know that that those that I said things that were shaming. I shamed myself and others, and because it's one of the big things I'm getting out of her book is that it's helpful for me in my own behaviors, to see myself, and back to, I think it was Socrates or Plato that said, see that, know thyself, so all part of the thing. So I'm grateful for Renee Brown and, teachers. Teachers are very helpful, but not so that I can become better at being here to get anything but just maybe so that I can be more helpful, so that I can serve at a higher level. And yeah, hey Kathy Lynn, yes, we are jailbreaking, girl. Thank you. Um, that is the ticket, and I yeah, freedom is the goal. Freedom is the goal. So you know, sometimes the other thing that's come out of this year for many of us, for many, many people, who live in Canada, their government has allowed them to actually not to have to worry about money for a while. So it's like, what a gift to be able to take this time as a retreat, to go inside, to really do the work. And hopefully you're doing that. If um, you know, um, yeah, I suspect that I spend 2 or 3 hours listening to teachers every day, and with the yeah, to, again, to continue this journey of awakening, and to expand this journey of awakening. I have to recognize that ego will sometimes say, "Oh, you got it," you know, and I think that we need to continue to grow spiritually, if you will, and to keep expanding um, into this space, this emptiness, this, you know, yeah. So anyway, grateful. Gratitude lists are good. In her talk yesterday, I was listening to that gratitude, people who experience joy in life do gratitude lists. And she gave me some more yesterday about behaviors. She said many of us are afraid to experience joy because our conditioning is that, we're waiting for the next shoe to fall. Our conditioning is that if things are, really, really good, that, shit's gonna come. And so we're built, we our conditioning, our persona is ready for the next thing, negative thing to befall us. And so, we're almost afraid to have joy. And so she was saying that people who write gratitude lists, um, it's easier for them to experience joy. And why not? If everything, truly everything that comes in our lives is for us, why not have joy? Right? Why not? We be, happy, joyous, and free. Happy, joyous, and free. These are words in the 12-step big book, it claims are available to us. Happy, joyous, and free, baby. Imagine. And instead of grumpy, restless, and angry. All right. What day is it? It is the 6th of January. We're going to read again from our little book. Now, this guy wrote this book. It's an amazing little book called the 24 Hours a Day book. It was written a long, long time ago. As I've studied a bit of his history, he actually started this book in the 40s, published it in the 50s. And not everything in his book is happy, joyous, and free, but it's all pointing us towards yes, happy, joyous, and free. Yes, yes, yes. You're right, Kathy Lynn. Everything in the book is pointing us towards happy, joyous, and free. And, and so just think of that. How would you like to be? No matter what was happening, no matter what the circumstances are, happy, joyous, and free. Yes, possible. Very possible. It's okay. January the 6th, thought for the day. Keeping sober. So sober, um, for emotional sobriety, spiritual, everything in the book says we have to straighten out spiritually before we can straighten out physically or mentally or emotionally. So we have to focus on this relationship with a higher power. And when that relationship grows, we recognize our freedom and we see who we are. So keeping sober is the most important thing in my life. So in the sense of, many people think of sobriety as just not using or drinking, you know, and so yes, we're kind of screwed. As soon as I take a drink, I'm not a social drinker. Whenever I drank medicinally. I drank to avoid the pain, and mm, because I gotten so deep in the hole, you know. Um, yeah, call it what you want. But when I drank or used, it was medicinally. It says, the most important decision I ever made was my decision to stop drinking or using. He's saying in his book here, 24-hour day book. There it is. I am convinced that my whole life depends on not taking that first drink. Yeah, I mean, you know, they say when you get run over by a train, it's the engine that kills you. It's the first car, not the sixth or the eighth, right? Which is probably true. The same with drinking or using for us. If you're truly an alcoholic or an addict, that's the first drink. Um, Nothing, it says, in the world is as important to me as my own sobriety. Yes, every time, everything I have, my whole life depends on that one thing. Can I afford ever to forget this, even for 1 minute? And over my years in recovery, and I've been sober a long, long time. Over my years in recovery, um, I've seen hundreds of people forget. You just can't imagine the shit that they went through and got recovery and somehow slipped away, stopped going to meetings, forgot, and it's a and kind of started back running the show themselves, decided that something was more important than their recovery. Often it was a relationship, because it felt so good, and the relationship often with somebody who doesn't understand the disease of alcoholism or addiction. And so it's tricky ground, and sometimes it's work, and we kind of put work or relationship ahead of this relationship with recovery, and the next thing you know, things are going sideways. We're not grateful, baby. Things are going sideways, and we're back at step one, and or beyond. Okay, meditation for the day. I will discipline myself. I will do this discipline now. I will turn out all useless thoughts. I will turn out all useless thoughts. I know that the goodness of my life is a necessary foundation for its usefulness. I will welcome this training, for without it, God cannot give me this power. I believe that this power is a mighty power when it is used in the right way. Yes. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may face and accept whatever discipline is necessary. I pray that I may be fit to receive God's power in my life. And of course we are, but we need to be open to it. And the opening that needs to happen for all of us is to recognize that we, from our conditioning, from our persona, from our selfish and self-centered thinking, we cannot run our own show. And or maybe you're not addict or you're not an alcoholic, and you're still trying to run the show, and there's a sense of dissatisfaction. There's a sense of what's wrong, why am I not living in my full potential? And so awakening isn't just for addicts and alcoholics, it's for all of us, and to continue that relationship with the power however you discern it. And we could talk forever on step two, which is came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And it goes deep in the chapter in We Agnostics in our book about what that power looks like, the concepts of that power. Because for many of us, it's kind of difficult. We have an old concept that that we're not grateful for, that maybe was a Sunday school Santa Claus type concept that we of a a storybook God that we didn't believe in anymore. And so we have to kind of find a new relationship with a higher power. And the great thing about the 12 steps is that the door is really wide for however you conceive that power to be. Very wide. Okay, so we've talked about gratitude, and the truth is that from my persona, I don't know. It's hard for me to just say I'm grateful for this and not for that. I get that there's something to be grateful for in everything. There's and we use the example of this coronavirus and what's happening and around us with you know um, the fact that many of us are staying home or not working this year. Um, what a benefit, how much gratitude there is for that time, and for that ability to be able to do that. Um, I saw a little piece the other day that talked about somebody that would say you were born at the turn of the century, 120 years ago, 1900, and that by the time you were 20, um, you know, there'd already been a world war and a pandemic that killed 50 million people. You know, by 1920, it already been a full world war and a pandemic. And by the time you were 30, you were in a depression that was unbelievable, right? By the time you were 50, you'd been through two wars and a pandemic and a depression. And so, and there was no government subsidies. you know, you just had to make her do. And we live in a different time. It's a beautiful time. So that's something to think about, right? And I think we live in more of an awakened time for sure. Okay, you guys, we're going to do a small, short meditation. If you'd like to join, that would be great. So the whole idea of the meditation, why I do this, is to recognize that when you drop in, when you find your space and you drop in, use your breath to just bring yourself into the moment. That we begin to access. We go in deep. Just drop inside. Let go of all of our thoughts. You know, one of the first things that happens for any meditator is that they begin to recognize, we begin to recognize, you begin to recognize that we're not our thoughts. Sometimes the question comes up, well, if I'm not my thoughts, where do my thoughts come from? And that really doesn't matter. That really doesn't matter. What matters is that we discover that we're not our thoughts. Then who are we? And we start to follow that thread deep inside, the observer of the thoughts, and then the observer of the one who's watching the thoughts. We drop deeper and deeper into that quiet space, the still space. The empty space. The space where we are one, where all things come from. If you've let go of all your conditioning, all your ideas of who you think you are, all the stories, all the rights and wrongs, just let it all go. Not your body, not your thoughts. like Ram Dass says, becoming nobody. In that state of nobodiness, in that state of nobodiness, we can tap into universal intelligence, consciousness, love, freedom, no story, no time, nothing to do, nowhere to go, no next, no tomorrow, no yesterday, no judgment, no fear, complete freedom. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Just want to remind you that I have a YouTube channel. I'd love it if you go there and subscribe. Watch a few videos there. And I'll put the link on this one. Love you guys. Happy, joyous, and free, baby. Right? Happy, joyous, and free.